The great thing about tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is that we're amongst friends, and these two, over the years, have become great friends of mine. Very proud to know them. Right at the end there, of course, is Andrew Gale, the captain of Yorkshire County Cricket Club. First class debut in 2004, and when Anthony McGrath, another stalwart of the side, stood down as captain, Gale took over, and I think he's done a fine job, I'm sure you agree, of leading the county. Yeah. A lifelong fan of Huddersfield Town, the brother-in-law to Tim Bresnham, so cricket runs in the family. For me, watching every Yorkshire game over the last years is 272 Gale, I think, against Notts at Scarborough, was an absolutely stunning performance, and his astute leadership a key part of Yorkshire's championship success in 2014. He is the captain of the county champions, Andrew Gale. What can we say about our other guest tonight? Well, a legendary figure, Harold Dickie Bird, OBE. From Barnsley, is a retired English international umpire, former player with Yorkshire and Leicestershire. Probably, I think, the most famous umpire the game has ever known. Stood in his first county game in 1970, 3 years later, a test umpire, umpired in 66 tests, 69 ODIs. He's president of Yorkshire County Cricket Club. And just to let you know, he tells me reliably he's met the Queen 29 times and still counting. He has his own foundation helping young people in sport who've been disadvantaged but still have the potential. An MBE and later an OBE for services to cricket and charity. He's done it all. Will you welcome the one and only legendary Dickie Bird, OBE. Gentlemen, our theme is inspiration and inspirational journeys. We hear it all the time in sport. So let's tackle that first. And later on, we're going to talk a little bit about Yorkshire's championship success, which we hope will be repeated in 2015. So no pressure, Gailey, as we go into the season, mate. Andrew, if I could start with you then. Who inspired you in your early days? Did you have a sort of hero, you know, that you looked at and said, I want to emulate that person as a left-handed batsman?
Probably Marcus Trescothick. It's quite weird, actually, because his first game as captain was my second game as captain as well. So to be tossing the coin for his first game as captain for Somerset, it was quite weird. Stood there next to my idol, really, coming through, big, tall left-hander. Had done so well for England to go up against him was quite weird. I think from my younger days, probably my granddad was the most inspirational guy because my father wasn't into cricket or anything. He still doesn't. He supports and comes to the games, but he didn't really know anything about cricket, which is quite good because he can't dictate to me what if I play a bad shot. So he probably got me into cricket when I was younger, did my granddad, and I went and joined Gummersall as a young lad, and then Cleckheaton, and I was quite lucky, fortunate really, to get picked for Yorkshire because I turned up for a trial when I was 10 years old, and I thought it was just a district trial, playing for Spen Valley, and when I turned up it was actually a Yorkshire trial, and I got selected by chance really, and so I played for Yorkshire Under-11s and come right through the system.
Yeah, I was talking with one of your colleagues, Rich Powder, whose benefit year it is, and he was saying it was great that you all came through, you and Brezzy and what have you. Dickie, you had an incredible career as a test umpire, became a legendary status in the game, but we mustn't forget, of course, that you were a player as well. In fact, on an inspirational terms, who did you look up to when you started playing the game?
I think Arthur Mitchell, who was the coach at Yorkshire, and there was Maurice Leyland as well. But I think Arthur, he did so much for me. If you could, anybody what's been to the nets with Arthur Mitchell, he used to really set about you. And but he used to play a lot with me every time I was in the net, but I always made sure I went into his net. I think Arthur Mitchell. I remember, I'm name dropping now, Michael Parkinson and I came for the first nets with Yorkshire, 16-year-old kids we were, for our first net at here at Headingley, and I'll never forget. Arthur Mitchell said to me, he said, "Who's that bloke?" I said, "He's a mate of mine, Mr. Mitchell." He said, "What they call him?" I said, "Michael Parkinson. He's a batsman." He said, "I'll tell thee whether he can bat or not." So I said to Parky, "Put the pads on and go and bat it, this net." And he went in, did Parky. He never laid bat on ball. And what Arthur Mitchell said to me, "What does that say it for a living?" I said, "Well, he's a journalist. He works for a local newspaper in Barnsley called the Barnsley Chronicle." Well, I've got a bit of advice for him, detailing from me, that he better stick to journalism. And it's just amazing, isn't it? What? Just amazing. But Arthur Mitchell, I think, he did a lot for me. I also remember my first net as well here at Yorkshire. It was rain affected. We had rain. And Arthur said to me, "Get the pads on and get in that net there." And I looked in the net, and who should be bowling? I was only a kid. Who should be bowling but F.S. Truman, Johnny Wardle, and Bob Appleyard. I played forward to Appleyard, off spinner, pitched off stump, knocked my leg stump out of the ground. Played forward to Wardle, ball me a Chinaman. No idea. Clean ball me. Freddie, I was too late, knocked all the lot out of the ground. I never laid bat on ball. And I come out of the net very depressed and down, and Arthur Mitchell said, "If they're going to play like that, they better not come here again," he said. But he must have seen something because I did go again.
You did indeed, of course. Now, at the moment, as we go on through the sporting world, and you two gentlemen are still so heavily connected in the wonderful game of cricket, I mean, look at who continues to sort of inspire you again. I mean, you've done a wonderful job as captain of Yorkshire, and it culminated with the 2014 championship, which was well done to you and the team. But is there someone in the modern day now who you look at and you think that guy's a cracking captain?
Probably, I'd say Michael Clark. I think he's had a lot of stick coming through Australia over the last few years about the way he's handled things, but I think it probably hit home how good a captain he was, and how good a leader he was when the whole Philip Hughes scenario happened, and the way he handled himself and the way he spoke for his team. I thought it was very, very inspirational. And I think he's on the field, he's just very proactive. I think sometimes this sort of English way of captaining is, 3 slips, a gully, but he's outside the box at times, and I think he's inspirational that way. But the way he handled himself off the field in that Philip Hughes scenario was unbelievable, really, where he stood up and spoke at his funeral, and he'd been so close to the lad. I thought very, very inspirational.
But you talk about that, and you talk about putting 3 slips in behind the wicket, ladies and gentlemen. But you yourself have been a captain of innovation with Yorkshire, when you've actually put in what we just explain what the Yorkshire Wall is to people in the field.
Well, we've got a lad called Steve Patterson who runs up and bowls line and length every single ball. He only bowls about 75 mile an hour, but it's very, very tough to get away. He usually doesn't go for more than 2 and over. So for him to get his wickets, we need to make the batsman attack more, so that creating less gaps in the field. So we sort of came up with this field called the Yorkshire Wall. So what it is, it's about 4 or 5 fielders in front of the batsman's face, because he hasn't got the pace to make it carry to gully or third slip, but if he's running up, bowling line and length, and you're batting, and you've got 5 guys in front of your face in a wall, it's almost like, where am I going to score here? So, every time he gets a wicket caught in the wall, we always say the Yorkshire Wall strikes again.
Yeah. What makes, we'll just continue with you for the moment, Gale, before we turn to Dickie with the same question. What makes an inspirational captain in sport as a whole, and in particular your game, cricket? What do you think?
I think first and foremost, leading on the field. I think you've got to be able to do the job on the field. When the chips are down, your teammates turn to you. You've got to stand up and get the job done. I think off the field, you've got to be honest, approachable, again, someone who your teammates look up to, something you'd never ask them to do, something that you wouldn't do yourself. I think over the years, probably my honesty has got me quite a lot of respect from my teammates, although sometimes it's stuff that they might not want to hear. I've been totally upfront and frank and honest with them, and that's got their respect. Where maybe a couple of months down the line, they come to me and say, you're probably right, or thanks for telling me how it was. I think some captains or coaches that I've played with have made excuses, and it all comes out in the wash, and you probably lose a bit of respect for that. So, yeah, I think the honesty thing, you want to be quite tough but fair as well, and be honest with your teammates.
Because you're in a slightly unusual situation, because I was with your colleague Rich Pyra last night, and you're great friends with Rich, but he doesn't always get in the first team, and you're the man that has to say, sorry mate, you're not in this time. And then Tim Bresnham's your brother-in-law. How do you tell your brother-in-law off on the field?
Yeah, it's quite a weird one, that, because sat at Christmas lunch with him, telling him he needs to lose a bit of weight, and it's never easy. I've played with Brez since I was 10 years old, and if I say black, he says white. That's the relationship we've got. If I want an extra slip in, he doesn't. So, we're constantly arguing, and it's never easy when you're arguing with your family and stuff. But I think there's a mutual respect there as well. And like I said, we've got a relationship where we can argue on the pitch, but we still have a pint together after and enjoy each other's company.
And he's a good babysitter as well, isn't he? There's no question about that. I mean, he's good.
He's usually buying the pint, so that helps.
Absolutely, he does as well. He's got the money to do it. Dickie, we'll talk about Yorkshire a little bit later and the championship, but you got your crystal ball out and you predicted that Yorkshire would win the championship in 2014. You are a man who knows your cricket. Without embarrassing our friend there too much, what do you think of him as a captain?
Well, in my speech at the luncheon pre-season, before the season started, I said that Andrew Gale was the best captain. I'm not saying it because he's here. Was the best captain in the county championship. I said that, and I mean that. I think there isn't any captain in the country at the moment can lace his boots. He's a fine captain. He did a marvellous job last year. Winning the championship, all the lads were with him, and I'll tell you this, in a good dressing room, if you have a good dressing room, you'll conquer the world. If you have a bad dressing room, you'll fall by the wayside. And he did a tremendous job, and I said he would do. I mean, while we're on about captaincies, I mean, I rated the best captains I ever, when I've been umpiring, was Ian Chappell of Australia. Raymond Illingworth, England, Michael Brearley, and Imran Khan. Those are my 4 Test captains that I saw, because they suss the weakness out of the opposition. That a good dressing room, as I just have said, all 4 of them. If you've a good dressing room, you conquer the world. If you haven't, you fall by the wayside. But this lad did a tremendous job last year, and I think this year, I know we're going to have 1 or 2 players out at the start, because I think we could have, when they select the side to go to the West Indies, we could have 5. We could have 5, we could have 6 in the squad. And they will miss the first 5 championship matches this season, which is a big, big hole in the side. But I still think that we'll do very well in the championship, and I think we'll win a one-day trophy this season. I do, honestly. And this lad played a tremendous part last season. He captained the side. I watched every match, never missed a match, and I thought he captained the side magnificent.
Well done to Gale. Now, we talk about inspiration in our Carnegie conversations here. Always a lovely night to be involved with cricket and the inspirational journeys you've both had. I presume, Gale, 2014 championship was the highlight. That's for you? Has that been the biggest moment?
Yeah, definitely the biggest moment in my career. you know, when you play for Yorkshire, it comes with an expectation. You know, you don't have to drive through the gates when you come in, and you see the silhouettes of the past players. You know, everywhere you go, you're reminded of the history of the club, and that's a lot of pressure to take on. But you know, I think it'd been well documented for a number of years that we hadn't won a trophy, and to finally get over the line and win a trophy after 13 years, it was certainly the highlight of my career.
Dickie, in your distinguished career as an umpire, was there one particular game or one particular moment that stood out for you, you know, that was very special? Or was it the 29 occasions you met Her Majesty?
I think, cricket-wise, I think the 1975 World Cup final, West Indies, Australia, that was the best game of cricket that I've stood in. Tremendous game. So many great players played in that 75 World Cup final. And that will always stand out in my, you know. There was a funny incident happened at the end of that one-day final. Jeff Thompson and Dennis Lilly were batting, and they were going on very well. And there's no ball called. My colleague called a no ball, and the crowd didn't hear it. And Jeff Thompson had an almighty swing. He was caught, and the crowd thought the match was over. They'd won it, and they came on the field, and the thousands and thousands, as they used to do in those days, they always came and raced onto the field, the crowd. And one bloke hit me at the back of my head, big West Indian, and he pinched me white cap. Yeah. And off he went. Because before the West Indies Test series starts, I used to have a box of white caps made by a firm in Luton. And they always used to, especially a West Indies tour, they used to pinch my white caps like shelling peas. But I found out where that white cap went, you know. I was umpiring at Lord's, and for some unknown reason, my car was off the road, and I caught the train, and I caught a London bus. And this big West Indies conductor came round, first please. And I looked at him, I thought, that's one of my white caps. I said, excuse me, sir, where did you get that white cap from? He said, man, haven't you heard of Mr. Dickie Bird? He said, I pinched it up his head in the 1975 World Cup final. And he said, I am so proud of this white cap. I never let on and never said anything. But I know where one of my white caps went.
You've had a remarkable career, there's no doubt about it. Obviously, in, you know, the inspirational moments you have, but there's always times in professional sport that's tough. I mean, let's start with you again, Gale. How do you cope with the pressure of it all? Because there really can be really intense pressure out there during a cricket match, for you as a player and for Dickie as a umpire. But start with you, the player.
I think it's important that you don't get too wrapped up in what you do. This is a big one on, as a team, we're here to entertain. We play cricket because we love it. And sometimes when you get caught up in the day-to-day of playing every single day in training, you start putting too much pressure on yourself and forget why you're actually playing. There's been times where we've been on a bad run, 2011 when we got relegated. Times when personally I've gone through bad form and I think, you know, what am I doing here? But I think when you just take a step back and think, you know, why am I actually playing this game? It's because I love it. You know, that's why I want to do it, because I love scoring runs. And, you know, my wife will say when I'm going through a bad trot, I'm an absolute nightmare to live with at home. But you just got to remember why you actually play the game, because you love cricket and you want to entertain people. Because
there's no doubt if they cut you open, Gale, Yorkshire County Cricket Club would fall out, perhaps on one side and Huddersfield Town on the other. But to show your devotion to the club in the championship season, the fourth match in, you actually dropped yourself because both openers, Live and Leeds, were playing superbly well, and you decided on this occasion you couldn't drop them.
Yeah, I think looking back then, it was all about the bigger picture. I want to captain the team. I want to be part of Yorkshire because I want to win trophies. I'd missed all pre-season through injury. you know, I'm probably got into the team at the start of the season just because I was captain. And I was first 3 games I didn't get any runs. And when you get 2 lads coming back from England, you're thinking, you know, 2 lads are going to miss out here. And the 2 lads at the top of the order had done okay. They were starting to form a decent partnership, and I knew if I was to break that up, someone like Leeds is a young lad. If you drop him, what effect does that have on him over a period of time? But also, if you tell him that you're going to back him and play him, that is a massive plus, and that had a big effect on him as well. So it was a hard decision to make. I spoke at length with Dizzy and Martin about it, but I think looking back, it was the right decision to make, because going forward, if anyone was out of nick or if someone came back from England duty and they were the one to be left out, there was no qualms about it. Because I'd left myself out, no one questioned that decision. And that you talk about respect and inspirational leadership, I think that was a moment really where the rest of the lads... is that your phone, Dickie?
It must be in both of us on phone. Sorry about that. Well, I thought I switched it off.
I think that was a big moment in the season, that we're just backing them 2 lads, and you know, they averaged over 70 as an opening partnership throughout the season. If you're 70 for none every game, you stand a good chance of winning.
Just, I know we've got people in the audience who I'm sure will love the cricket, but just for those who might not know, Dizzy is the nickname of Jason Gillespie, the Yorkshire first team coach, and a very famous Australian, and along with a number of others, has helped transform Yorkshire around into the side that they are at the moment. Dickie, now you umpired with some of the absolute greats. I mean, it was you that christened Michael Holding, the West Indian fast bowler, as Whispering Death when he came in past you, bowling at 90 plus and what have you. How did you keep calm? Because that was one of your great things, really, that you were calm under pressure.
Well, I think that when I was a player, I was a big worrier. I worried I would have worried too much, and it affects your game.
Yeah.
And I said, when I became a first-class umpire, that I was going to enjoy it. Number one, I was going to enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah.
And once I crossed that rope, I was saying the world is mine, you know. But I was a worrier when I played. And I used to get on well with the players, you know. If I may say this, that... I didn't want to bring this up, but the incident what Gale had, that would never have happened if I'd have been on the field. It would never have happened.
No.
I'd nipped it in the butt straight away. It wouldn't have been banned. It should have been still played. We missed him first match of next season, which, as a, you know, if we could look, I forgot that we could lose Andrew for one championship, two championship matches of the season, and that's going to be a big hole in the team with these who go to the West Indies.
So what you're telling me, you've got to be fairly firm out there.
Yeah, and enjoy it. That's the main thing. Enjoy the thing. Yeah. But I mean, I handled some of the greatest players the world's ever seen.
Oh yeah.
And the best player that I umpired with, without a shadow of doubt, was Garfield Sobers, the greatest all-round cricket that I played against and that I umpired. He, for me, you'll never see one like him in your lifetime and anybody else's lifetime. He was certainly the best all-round cricketer that I've ever seen. Yeah. Tremendous player.
And your timekeeping's always been impeccable, because you get to grounds normally about 5 hours before they start, don't you? Really, I mean, you're renowned, don't you? Early arrival.
When I did my first test, it was at Headingley again, New Zealand, in 1973. I arrived at the ground before the ground staff, and all the gates were locked. I couldn't get in, and eventually, I think I threw my bag over the wall. I climbed over the wall, and I went and sat in the rugby stand at this end about 6:30 in the morning, and I just sat there on my own. Not a soul about, nobody there, and there were all sorts of things going through my mind. And I've always have been early. Wherever I've gone, I've always been, say, a couple of hours early than I should have been.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I always have been. I've never yet been late.
No, true, yeah. Now, we talk about inspirational moments, but you have your times when it might be a batsman going through a poor run of form, a bowler who's lost a little bit. But, Gale, if I could turn to you, has there any been a point when you've got really down, you thought, oh, so this is not me, but you've actually thought, can I carry on? Has it ever got to that stage in your professional life?
Yeah, there's been a couple of times. Probably at the start of my career when I was playing here, I wasn't getting the opportunities that I would like. The game's changed quite a bit now because staffs are smaller. Young players, when they get an opportunity, they get to stay in the side. And when I first started playing, you had to really stack a lot of second team runs up. If you were a senior player, cap player, you always played until you retired, really. And I was going through a patch in the second team where I scored 1,000 runs one year, nearly 1,000 runs the next year, and I made my debut. A few months later, I scored my first 100 at Scarborough, played one more game, and then didn't play in the first team the rest of the season. And it was like, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. Maybe I should go get another profession or go to another county. And I actually spoke to quite a few umpires around about leaving Yorkshire because I thought if I don't leave, I'm not going to get an opportunity to be a first-class cricketer, and that's exactly what I want to do. So that was probably one instance, and probably 2013, the start of the season, we're about 5 or 6 games in, and I think I only had like 150 to my name. I was struggling for form. Again, I spoke to Dizzy. I said, I'm really, really struggling, Diz. I don't know where my feet are going. I feel like a walking wicket. And he just said, look, mate, I'm backing you all the way. It'll come good for you. It'll come good. You're a good player. Yeah. Your record says that. Just go out and enjoy it, relax. And we played Notts at Scarborough, and that's when I got 272. Because I had my family there, stayed in the hotel with me. My little girl were there, and my mum and dad. And I just thought, you know what? Just go out and relax. If I get out for none tomorrow, what's the worst that could happen? I'll still go home and I've got my family. Yeah. So I went out and I just played shots. I just thought I'm just going to play a few shots and see where it takes me. And I was on 50 before I knew it. And that's when I thought, now I've got to 50, I'm going to cash in here and make sure I make a big one. Went on to get 272, and then I scored another 200s in a row then. So I got 300s in the next 3 games. And that's another point where I just thought, it was at tipping point whether to leave myself out. And you probably look into it more than you should do. I was thinking that everywhere I went, people are thinking, why is he still in the team? And you think you lose respect to your teammates, when actually your teammates are right behind you.
Mm-hmm. And in our Carnegie conversation tonight, Dickie, as a player, am I right in thinking you got your top score for Yorkshire and then were dropped, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. I got 181 not out at Bradford Park Avenue, and I dropped next match. But I'll tell you the story. Nobody got any runs in the match. Gilbert Parkhouse got 59 for Glamorgan, that's who we're playing. And the ball was turning square. The Jim McConnon, the off-spinner, England, the Don Shepherd, the Peter Walker, Jimmy Presdy, so left arm. And I thought, Don Wilson stuck with me at the end, he got 40 odd, Don. And I thought, I looked up onto the balcony and I saw all the selection committee, they sat there before they went in for the meeting to select the site for the next 3 matches. And I saw them go in, and I thought I was 150 odd not out when I saw all the selection going. And there were about 40 odd at selection in them days, well, picked the Yorkshire side. And I came out, took my pads off, and I thought, well, surely we won by an innings. Surely they'll play me next match. And Sellers come into the dressing room, he was a bombastic. I don't want to swear.
Yeah, so got the bleep button on there, Dickie. Then.
Yeah. And he came in the dressing room and he said, get the head down, Birdie. That's played well, but they're playing it second team next match.
Yeah.
And I went in second team and I got 100.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
It's harsh, isn't it,
It's
Gale,
hard.
sometimes?
And
isn't
that's
it?
similar, like as Andrew says, you know,
Yeah.
it's soul destroying at times, you know. It's,
Now, it certainly wasn't soul-destroying in 2014 for Yorkshire County Cricket
No.
Club. After coming very close in 2013, for the first time since 2001, deservedly winning the title. I should know because I saw every game. Gale, it was a great achievement. What was the difference between 2013, when you were nearly there, to actually clinching it in 2014? What was the difference between the sides, if you like, that you had?
Well, there wasn't much difference with the side that we had on the field. I think it was the experience of 2013. I think, you know, going into the last 4 or 5 games of the year in 2013, we got caught up in all the commotion and Yorkshire going to win the championship, the top of the league, by far the best team. All the press were writing about it, asking questions about it all the time, and we probably got carried away with looking too far ahead. And, you know, Durham played some bloody good cricket to win it. You know, I didn't think we lost it. I thought Durham won it.
yeah.
But that game at Scarborough, when they beat us at Scarborough, you know, we were by far the superior team on paper. But they just stuck to the process, and we got carried away with thinking 2 or 3 games in advance. So in 2014, we never looked too far ahead. We never got caught up in anything that anyone else was saying. And Dizzy and myself and Martin, all we talked about was process. Ball by ball, session by session, just keep ticking them off. If we do that, everything else will take care of itself, and that's exactly what happened.
And Dickie, we talk about your crystal ball. You became president, and I know it's something that you're very proud of, and quite rightly so. You did a fantastic first year as president. And you told me in April 2014, you said there and then, Yorkshire will win the title.
Yeah.
Why were you so convinced?
I'm so convinced because it took me back to I remember the 1959 side and then into the 60s. And I thought, I saw these lads, you know, I see these kids in the nets and all these youngsters, and I thought to myself, there's not much. I'm quite honest. It would have been a good contest if if Gale's side could play the 1960 side. It would be a good contest. I'll tell you now. And because with that magnificent era, some great players, but by God, with some magnificent players here now at Yorkshire, I'll tell you this, with a conveyor belt running through our youngsters, some of the finest young players that I've ever seen. I'll tell you this. And I said to James Whittaker, the England selector last season, I said, let me pick my Yorkshire team, let me have root and balance in, let me pick my Yorkshire team, then you pick your England team, and we'll beat you. We'll beat you over 5 days.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't all.
Yeah.
Tell you this. And he's here is Gale, and he must be very proud man tonight, because it's a magnificent side, this, I'll tell you now. And Leeds, I think this boy, Andrew, I think he is very special. I might be wrong, but I think he is.
Got a higher first class score than your mate Boycott.
Oh.
There's another story. There's another story. No, we can't do that tonight. We haven't got enough time, Dickie, have we? Let's, on that very good point that Dickie's made, a very good year for Yorkshire, let's see if we've got any questions.
I think everyone will always call Dickie a legend. You talk about Yorkshire cricket and people talk about Dickie Bird. You know, when it comes to deciding who goes in the legends list, I'm not sure who that falls on. Chief Exec might be able to answer that.
Before my time.
Let the Chief Exec relax tonight.
I think, first and foremost, we were probably stuck in a bit of a rut before Dizzy came, that we'd always had people from within the system of Yorkshire coaching Yorkshire, and I think he brought new ideas to the table. But, you know, when you look at Dizzy, he commanded respect straight away when he came in, because he played in arguably one of the best teams that the world's ever seen, the team that he played in. But he just keeps things very simple, and he treats every player like an adult. So if you turn up and you say you don't want to practice, he'll say, fine, that's okay, go home, rest up if that's what you need. And our motto in the dressing room, there's a whiteboard there, and all it says on it is score as many runs as possible, bowl the opposition out for as little as possible. Now, that's not rocket science. He doesn't complicate anything, just keeps things very simple, and he wants lads to go out, express themselves and enjoy themselves. And I think when you've won a few games on the back of that, that gives you confidence. When the games are in the balance and you go on the attack, you saw it last year in the Ashes. Whenever the game were in the balance, England tried to go on the defence and block it out. The Australians went on the attack and took the game to England. That's exactly what brand of cricket that Dizzy wants us to play at Yorkshire. And when you've won off the back of playing like that, it gives the side mental strength and confidence going forward. And I think the lads believe in that style of cricket now.
Because in a sense, Andy, it's fair to say that inspirational leadership doesn't need to be complicated leadership.
No, like I said, Dizzy keeps things very, very simple. He's an outstanding man manager. He man manages every single individual. He doesn't treat the team as a team. He treats everyone as an individual. So he'll know exactly what makes each player tick. And it might just be a text. It might just be an arm around the shoulder and the services on the way to the game. But he knows exactly where each player is. And to be fair, on a day-to-day basis, he doesn't really do that much coaching. He just speaks to the lads and lets them make their own minds up, gets the feedback off them, and he'll just give them all the backing that he needs. As soon as they cross the line, it's up to them to perform.
I think he installed the Australian way how to win.
Yeah, it's a good point, Dickie.
Yeah, how to win.
Yeah. It's a definite winner, there's no doubt about that. Let's take another question.
I don't think they'll ever limit it, but what would disappoint me is if they took 5 or 6 lads on that West Indies trip and 3 of them were carrying drinks when, it's an 8-hour flight to the West Indies.
Yeah.
Do they need to take Bairstow as backup keeper when he can be playing cricket here? If Butler breaks a finger, we can have him out there in 8 hours. So, it disappoint me if they play all this cricket with the Lions, they come back in form of their lives, and then they don't play cricket for 6 weeks. That would be disappointing.
But if I had a point, who gave you the most difficult times, Dickie, as an umpire?
I can honestly say, sir, and I mean this, I never had any problem from any professional cricketer throughout the world. Never. I mean, I turned an LBW down for John Stevenson, didn't I, John?
I was going to get onto that.
Yeah.
I thought I gated it before you said it, John.
Yeah. But that was the thing that made you, I think, such a good umpire, Dickie, because you were very consistent. You didn't often give LBWs, but you were very consistent, and that's
Consistent.
yeah, that's the thing.
Consistent.
Yeah,
That's all they asked for.
Yeah.
Consistency. Honest consistency.
yeah. Some of them were plum, but it doesn't really matter.
Oh, dear, thank you. I thought you were a friend of mine, Dave.
I've got a question for Dickie, actually. Do
Go
you
on.
think umpiring now is easier or harder than when you umpired?
Easier.
DRS?
Yeah, easier, yes. Yeah, easier. But, I think that all the authority's been taken away. I'm all for helping umpires, all possibly can help them all. But I think this has been all the authority's been taken away from the umpire. And that's very, very sad. I never thought I'd live to see the day that the technology had taken over doing the umpire. And it's just my opinion only, that Hawkeye, I don't think it's correct. Because I don't think he can tell you the state of the pitch. He can't tell you how much that ball bounces.
No.
He can't tell me how much it's swung in the air and turned. You got a man what plays forward, right forward. They're giving him out LBW. That's 4 to 5 yards to travel.
Yeah.
He couldn't do anything. And I think there's so much being taken. It's very, very sad. In my ear, if an umpire made a mistake, the press talked about it, the television talked about it, they talked about it in the pubs, in the working men's clubs. It was part of the game.
Yeah.
Part of the game. But now, Andrew, I think that all the authority has been taken away from the umpire. They just go to this, gets them out. You see, this Sonny Kay, the third umpire.
Let's just have a couple more questions if we can.
How are they chosen?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have a sit down with Dizzy and Martin and Mark, and we'll have a look at where we think we need to strengthen for next season. Ask the chief to get his chequebook out and backers, which he has done. We knew when it came to Finchy, we knew that what style of player we wanted. Jason had worked with him with Australian A, so he knew what sort of character he was. I was out in Australia last winter, and we've got the same sort of management company, so they organised us to go to lunch together, and he sat down, ordered burger and chips and a pint, and I thought, yeah, this lad's going to fit in Yorkshire. So we're very, very lucky that the players that we've brought in over the last few years. Kane Williamson, he's had an outstanding winter for New Zealand. He'll go on and be probably the best player New Zealand ever have, I believe. Finchy, he's fitted in the dressing room really, really well. And there was questions over his red ball cricket. I mean, he performed better in red ball cricket than he did in white ball cricket for us last year. So we're very lucky to have him back. And someone like Glenn Maxwell, you know, if we can get him in form, he wins games on his own. You know, he goes through, what I've seen, he goes through patches where he gets out of form and he doesn't score runs for a while, but you get him in form, he wins games on his own, and it looks like he's just coming into some form at the minute going into the World Cup, as we saw last week when he annihilated England on his own. So, yeah, that's sort of the process we go through and why we choose them lads.
If you had your time again, we'll start with you, Gale. Would you do anything differently?
Well, they keep shouting for a third slip at Headingley, so I should maybe put up a third slip instead of a third man. There's always stuff that you learn from. I think, you know, experiences of leaving players out, how I've spoke to them, managing that situation. There's particularly one moment that stood out for me was probably Anthony McGrath when he was coming to the end of his career. I could have maybe handled that better. I was really, really close to Mags as a friend as well, and a guy who had done so much for Yorkshire Cricket. It came to where I was under pressure to tell him that he was left out, and we came back from a late game somewhere like Hampshire or something. We got back at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had to tell him that night that he was left out at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, you know what, he probably deserves better than that. And I look back on that as probably I learnt a lot. I learnt a lesson from that, and if I could change that, I would. But because we're such good friends, you know, we've spoke about that since and put it to bed.
Anything you would have done different, Dickie?
Never left. I should never have left Yorkshire.
Went to Leicestershire, didn't you? Yeah.
Should never have left.
Was that, I mean, at the time, you obviously had felt that you know, that you could get a good career at Grace Road, though?
Yeah, I was all right. First season, I got well over 1,000 runs.
Yeah.
And I got my county cap. Because Willie Watson was captain. And season after, Willie, I was all right. First 3 years, I was all right. And then the Watson sacked him. I couldn't believe it. He says to me that, are you going, I want you to go out with me tonight. We'll watch football, Leicester City, and then we'll go and have a meal together. And over the meal, he said, they've sacked me. I said, what? The greatest player in country? On a bat pitch, one of the best I've ever seen on a bat pitch, except for Len Hutton. And since that, they made Maurice Allen captain, and he was against all Yorkshiremen because they selected Ken Taylor to play for England, who had got 400 runs in May, and Maurice Allen had got 1,000 runs in May. But we weren't the Yorkshire players, the Yorkshiremen who were at Leicester. We weren't on the selection committee. And he said ever since, and so he took it out of Yorkshiremen because he got left out of the England side.
Okay, final question from me. We're into it now, 2015. We're not far away from it all starting up again. Yorkshire defending champions. Can we have back-to-back titles? Will there be a chance of taking a one-day title? Andrew, you're the captain.
No reason why not. I think We've drawn a line through the sand from last year. It was brilliant, win the trophy, highlight of a lot of players' careers, but that's gone. You know, I tell the players that if they want to become legends at this club, it's about winning trophies over and over again. You know, if we're lucky with international call-ups, we can still compete. Definitely we'll be up there in the championship. We've got to be better in 2020 in one-day cricket. We know that. We got to a quarter-final last year in the one-day comp. We should have gone all the way to the final at least. 2020 is an area that we really need to improve, and the lads have been working hard, particularly over the last 5 weeks in the nets. When we get the group back together and we get out to Abu Dhabi pre-season, you know, the lads want to be in the straps in that form because you know, we want to be getting to finals day. And
just in a word or two, who will be the rivals? Who should we look out for in the county championship? Other teams?
I think Nottinghamshire always they always recruit well. They can be a little bit hot and cold. If they can stay hot throughout the most of the summer, then you know I think they'll be up there. I think you can never write Durham off. They always, a bit like us, produce their own players. They've got a good dressing room like we have, a good togetherness, and if they get on a run with the experience of Paul Collingwood, they'll be competing as well.
And Dickie, crystal ball out again. Can you see another trophy for your beloved Yorkshire?
I think if we can get over the first few matches, you know, because we've got a 5-player 6-way away. If we can get over that reasonably well, we'll win the championship again. But I think definitely we'll win a one-day trophy.
It'd be lovely to go to Lords or Edgbaston or whatever.
One-day trophy. And my danger horse I see, who could take us very close, Warwickshire.
Warwickshire, yes, second in the table last year, of course. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your stories with us, gentlemen. You have been an inspiration, and you remain an inspiration in the work that you do in the cricketing world. This has been Carnegie Conversations, and it's been another lovely evening, so thank you very much for forming our audience tonight. But I'd just like you now to say thanks once again to the Yorkshire captain who led them to the title in 2014, and of course a legend of the game in his own right. I'm referring to our guests tonight, Andrew Gale and Dickie Bird, OBE.